Well, welcome to Dunamis Woman and Ram Today. I am Dee Collins, and I am the host of this show, and it's an awesome show because we are women who are breaking through barriers for great success. And that's our mantra for Dunamis Woman Incorporated. And our mission is to come up under the mission of many, many charitable organizations, not too many though, who are really, really supporting the cause to empower women, families, and our youth in our society. I look at history, and you know this is the month of March, but I just don't want to limit it to this month because we could talk about this anytime, you know. But it's a time that's been set aside for us to really, really focus on who we are, you know, and all women, whether you are African American, Philippine, Indian, Caucasian, we are one. We are one. We've had to fight just to stay in our role and our beauty and our authenticity of being created a woman. So if we had to fight just for that, I wonder, what is it about us? What is it about us as women? I know it's dunamis, but what is it about us?
It's our dunamis power. We have a lot of endurance.
Yes, we do.
We persevere. We actually are naturally nurturing. And we are just beyond powerful. It's not just our, you know, a lot men may have the physical power, but it's our minds, it's our emotions, it's our ability to think, it's our ability to undergird.
Yes.
You know, so that makes us different, that differentiates us from everyone else on this planet. And it's just our beauty. Yeah. We are beautiful beings. We truly are. When God made woman,
well, I mean, and he said that he fashioned us, and he really built us to be not only outwardly but inwardly, to be so powerful. And that's why it's Dunamis Woman and Real Awesome Men, because every man have come through the womb of a woman, and every woman have come out of a man. Yes, exactly. So they're so connected that no matter what, I don't care, you know, what society promotes, such as lesbianism and heterosexual perversion of just being all over the place. Every man and woman is connected, you know. But realistically, women have to stick together in order for our men, not just one man, but our men to be really who they are. You know, I'm so reminded of Proverbs 18:22, when we just talk about the scripture, he that seeketh a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor of the Lord. But that wife literally means a woman. But it's a woman who is surrounded by women, such as midwives. Yes, ma'am. You know what I mean? To help that woman, because the man's mind is so powerful that she's connected with, that he literally need a host of women to stand with that one man. Yes. And so it's a constant reproduction of every man in that manner. So if so many women can come together like that, it's only for him to be launched into who he is. But the women have to stick together. We do. The women have to stand united. And so many women just don't trust.
One of the things that we have not really grasped is the purpose of not only us, but the purpose of men on this earth. And if we go back to Genesis, if we go back to the beginning, they are to have rulership and dominion, and we are to be their helpmeet. But so often, our views have been distorted by what the world has said the man is. Now, the man is our protector, the man is our nurturer, but in our own perverted thinking, we believe that the man is only good for certain things. He can nurture up until a point, and then through our own issues and our own pain, we don't think that he's as powerful enough to handle us, to be able to take care of us. Our protector to an extent, until you know, we've become very independent as women, and he can only you know, protect us or provide for us up until a point. But see what has happened to us as women, and I can go back to slavery, I can go back to, you know, our women being oppressed in Europe, all over the world. And it starts with us being abused. Yes. And us being abused by our moms. You know, the first mistrust came between mother and daughter. Wow. You know, really. And that's where you first mistrust a woman. You mistrust your mom first.
And that's why so much dissension can be between a mother and a daughter which is why we're having a mother and daughters conference coming up, because that's the first tactic that the enemy use.
You know, a mother and a daughter, and I can only speak from what I know as far as my family history and what I've read and what I've studied. You know, when the daughter comes, the mother feels that she's moved aside.
Wow.
And that daughter is the apple of the father's eye. But if we don't know that a father's role is to nurture that daughter in the beginning years of her life, and the mother really is a nurturer, but she's to step aside to a point and let that father have that relationship with that daughter. I don't care what culture you're in. I don't care what color, nationality, religion you are.
It's all one and the same.
It's all one and the same.
It's all one and the same.
So that's where the dissension comes from, because now mom is set aside. Now mom gets a little jealous of her own daughter. And the daughter's just being a daughter. She's being the apple of dad's eye.
Correct.
So the dissension starts there. Mom does certain things, daughter does certain things, and it's all to get the attention of the man.
Which brings us emotional wholeness and emotional stability. You know, I've heard you use the term a couple occasions about nurture. And the first thing you talked about how the woman was the nurturer, then you talked about a man being the nurturer. And I think that we don't really understand what nurture means, because we look at the mother, and from a historical standpoint, women challenged us to be nurturing. You know, they put demands on us, mothers. You know what I'm saying? They imparted into us that we had to get things right, which wasn't so, oh, baby, do this. You know what I'm saying? It was a high level of demand, you know, and expectation, because the power that you had on the inside of you, and the daddy would come and to say, you know, it's going to be all right, you know, particularly for their daughters.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. If you were raised in a household with both mother and father, there was that balance.
It was that balance.
Many of us were raised, I don't care who you are, where the mother spent most of the time, or you may have been raised in a single family home and dad was at work all the time. I don't care if you were married. If dad was at work 45 hours a day,
right.
You were a single mom.
Yes,
I don't care what you could call it.
Right.
So it became distorted then, because the mother took on the role, became a little bit more dominant in her position. And it's this old phrase, and I don't care who you are. Mothers love their sons but raise their daughters.
And that's the truth.
And that's the dissension.
And that's the truth.
But that's the truth.
That's the truth.
Because there's a high level of expectancy. I'll go personal with you. My mom loved my brother and raised me. At the age of 10, I was cooking for the family. So he's 20, I'm 10, I'm cooking for the entire family, because she expected me to be a mother one day.
But then he did not have that father there to put demands on the son, which caused him to be babied, you know, and there's so many mothers now that are babying their sons, and we as women are inheriting little boys that have grown up to be physically men, you know what I mean? But if they don't get their way, then, and that's a whole totally different story, you know. Well, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back, because I want us to hit more into the historical part of this, you know, with women, and how we're going to break this cycle. Because the first thing we got to do is break it within ourselves. We have to understand that we are lovely. We have to understand that we're intelligent, we're powerful, and we're sensual, but we're not just being that from an outward adorning, you know what I mean, to say, I want to lure you, you know, into myself to be what I want you to be. So we want you to stay tuned, listen to this commercial, because we want to celebrate you, because that's what a woman does. They celebrate one another to break this dissension. This is Pastor D, and I'll be right back.
Are you lovely?
Are you intelligent?
I am powerful.
And I am sensual.
Do you know what I think that we are?
What are we?
We are
Dunamis Women.
I'm Ariel.
And I am Allison.
And we are here to invite you to our Women History event, Lips. Lovely, intelligent, powerful, sensual. A woman of power. And so I want to invite you to come out to join with other women who are coming together to really input and to give you some wisdom. We're going to have an amazing woman there, Mary D. Do you know who she is?
Yes, I do.
She is the legendary. People most know her from WGN television to there. She's going to be there to pour out wisdom into you. So if you're unsure if you are a woman of power, if you're young, a teenager, even if you are an adult, we invite you to come out and to just share the experience with other women. But, you know, I think that it's going to be men there also.
There are?
I think so. I think it's going to be men from high school all the way up to alumni players from the NFL. So there's a lot of different perspectives that they could be able to give you, to pour into you and help you understand who you are as a woman. So we invite you to come out to our Power Pack Luncheon. It's going to be so much information, so much laughter, so much gathering, so much joy, and just having women come together and really celebrate what Women's History Month is all about. So where can they go to get more information, and where are we going to be at that day?
We're going to be at the Holiday Inn in Elk Grove Village. So the website that you go to is www.dunamis-woman.com. Also at the bottom of your screen, there will be more information.
So we invite you to come out, join us, engage in fellowship and laughter as we come and celebrate you as a woman. The cost is just $55. It's an amazing price for you to invest in yourself. If you don't invest in yourself, nobody else will. So I invite you from all ages, women, come out and enjoy Dunamis Woman Power Pack Luncheon for lips. Lovely,
intelligent,
powerful,
and sensual.
We are here to celebrate you.
Well, Michelle, there you have it. There you have it. And we want you to register right now because you are lovely, intelligent, powerful, sensual. And oftentimes we don't use that sensual term.
No, we don't. We get scared of sensual.
We're scared of it. Why?
Because we have a, corporate mindset, religious mindset, but that we're not supposed to be soft and sensual. It's a bad word.
But you know what? Women, we're talking about women's history, a dunamis woman. A woman that is powerful know how to govern her home, govern her heart, govern her children. She has things in order. That's sensual. You walk into her home, things are in place. Her beauty is on the outward. She knows how to address people. She's kind. She's not easily provoked.
Right.
That's the attribute of love, but don't provoke me, but I'm not easily provoked, and those are the things that brings out that. So it's not a separate entity. I have to be intelligent to know how to be lovely. I have to be sensual to know how to use my power. You know what I mean? And all of it just works together for the benefit of our families. And that's the woman is the core of the family.
Yes.
That's when you see grandmother or great-great-grandmother die, a matriarch is such a substance that's lost if that has not been passed down. And that's the dissension between mother and daughter that the enemy would love to stop.
Maintain and to keep.
And to keep, yeah. That they'll love. Talk about it, because you're looking at me like
when
your mind is racing.
When I think about, you say the matriarchs, I can look at every culture. In my mind popped in a woman in Asia. And I think about the history, and you see the grandmother there with the children, whether they're farmers or whatever, but she's taking care of them because her daughter or son has brought her into the home to take care of her. And so she's passing down the culture, she's passing down the traditions. And maybe it's her daughter-in-law, but no matter what the issues are, they know the purpose of continuing to pass it on, to continuing to, as you say, nurture and educate and give knowledge. And then as you're talking, I'm thinking of the same type of woman in Africa, in maybe a village or maybe a city, but the matriarch is there. There's a village of women, midwives, taking care of everybody. That's the saying, that it takes a village to raise a child. And then I can go in a house in Brooklyn. I can go in a house in Brooklyn in an Italian family, and who's there? Cooking with the mother, cooking with the granddaughter. It's the matriarch of the family.
It's the matriarch.
And that's what a lot of us are missing right now, because for whatever reason, I know for kill, steal, and destroy, the enemy wants to break all of that up. So that there is no more women's history.
If he gets the woman, then he has all of the history.
He has all of the history.
He has all of the history.
All of it. And then, there's nothing. We're starting over. We're always starting over. It seems like every generation starts over and over. There's no foundation. We just have to keep doing it over.
And
that's not the original plan.
This is an epidemic amongst all women.
Women.
I just want to make it perfectly clear. Now, one may have a higher percentage, and I know for us as African American, we need to go to the cross, to the fountain, to the stream, to Dunamis Woman. We need to go a whole lot of places, but it's still an epidemic.
It is.
Across all of them, because 80% of households are ran by women, but if we don't understand how to stick together, you know what I'm saying, we become depleted because that foundation. If he gets that foundation, all storms of life will just come and just shatter it.
And you till when we get together and we talk and we discuss and we really just go deep within ourselves, but it's a safe environment that brings up so much and it enlightens us, and then we have the strength to go deeper, but we have the strength to move forward.
But you know what that does? It breaks down segregation.
It does.
Prejudice, racism, socioeconomic status to make you believe that you're better than one or less than. It breaks down so many barriers.
It does.
So many barriers because there's only one thing that we're hinging upon, and that's our power. You know, and then when you start speaking, I really see how powerful you really are. When you start being transparent, I see how powerful that next woman really is. You know, and I want to get to know her even the more.
Exactly.
I start seeing myself really. You know, and that's when the community, from a historical standpoint, communities were developed.
Right.
Communities.
You know, I think about women's suffrage, how women all over came together.
Yes.
I think about when Ida B. Wells and we had Madam C.J. Walker, and they were doing the anti-lynching laws. There were women of all races and all economic status that came together for the cause.
For the cause.
You know, and one of the things that we miss is there's a cause for us to be together. And when we don't know the purpose and we don't know that cause, you know, that's when the backbiting, the gossip, and everything else. But if we stick to the cause, we get further.
We get further.
We get further.
So there have to always be a cause.
It has to be.
The cause is what we need to. And the cause is, in this day and time, based upon history, is restoring.
We have to.
We have to restore. We
It's
have to
a
restore.
must.
We have to become the matriarch, because think about this. We're going to become history.
We are.
We're going to become history.
You know, every day, yesterday, I made history.
Yeah.
You know, every day that you live, every day that you go and take a breath, and then the moon goes up, comes down, that's another day past.
Yes,
You
yes,
made history
yeah.
within that day. So how are you doing it? What are you doing?
So I guess the question is 20, 30, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, though he may tarry, what mark are you going to leave
Exactly.
in this earth that's going to go
Exactly.
down as a historical view?
Now, one thing that we can't do anything by ourselves.
No, we can't.
So not only what mark did you make in history, but who did you have with you?
Okay.
My grandmother used to say, I'm in an army of women, but I can stand alone. I choose not to. Powerful.
That's powerful.
She knew her God-given power. She can do whatever through God, through Christ. However, she was with an army of women.
Yeah.
Always. And that army, you know, had a cause. People don't go to war for naught.
No.
Armies don't go to battle for
No.
naught.
No.
We have to have that mindset, and we have to continue to just be honest with one another. You don't. The last thing you want to do is, and I'm going into fight mode.
Yeah.
Last thing you want to do is fight with someone and you don't even know them.
Yeah.
You know, we always watch these shows, Gladiator and different things of that nature. It's not until they understand and they're transparent and they understand that personal side that they fight a little better together.
Yes, yes. Well, you always fight together better. You know, and particularly when you got two women at war, but not warring against one another.
Exactly.
You know, fighting, look what we can conquer. Our strength rise up on the inside of us, you know, and we have to break down these walls of segregation that all these barriers have been put in our minds, and we definitely have to stop disrespecting one another. You know, we're going to take a break because I want to come right back. They're going to see a commercial about the historical view of women's history, but I want to come back and talk about two powerful women that served as midwives. You know, when God really gave them some instructions, and they had so much reverence and fear for God. Because if I keep looking at you, you keep looking at me, you're going to see my fault, I'm going to see your fault. But we both supposed to look up unto God.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that when we come right back. This is Pastor D, and stay tuned because we'll be right back.
Are you lovely?
Are you intelligent?
I am powerful.
And I am sensual.
Do you know what I think that we are?
What are we?
We are
Dunamis Women.
I'm Ariel.
And I am Allison.
And we are here to invite you to our Women History event, Lips. Lovely, intelligent, powerful, sensual, a woman of power. And so I want to invite you to come out to join with other women who are coming together to really input and to give you some wisdom. We're going to have an amazing woman there, Mary D. Do you know who she is?
Yes, I do.
She is the legendary. People most know her from WGN television to there. She's going to be there to pour out wisdom into you. So if you're unsure if you are a woman of power, if you're young, a teenager, even if you are an adult, we invite you to come out and to just share the experience with other women. But, I think that it's going to be men there also.
There?
I think so. I think it's going to be men from high school all the way up to alumni players from the NFL. So there's a lot of different perspectives that they could be able to give you, to pour into you and help you understand who you are as a woman. So we invite you to come out to our Power Pack Luncheon. It's going to be so much information, so much laughter, so much gathering, so much joy, and just having women come together and really celebrate what Women History Month is all about. So where can they go to get more information, and where are we going to be at that day?
We're going to be at the Holiday Inn in Elk Grove Village. So the website that you go to is www.dunamis-woman.com. Also at the bottom of your screen, there will be more information.
So we invite you to come out, join us, engage in fellowship and laughter as we come and celebrate you as a woman. The cost is just $55. It's an amazing price for you to invest in yourself. If you don't invest in yourself, nobody else will. So I invite you from all ages, women, come out and enjoy Dunamis Woman Power Pack Luncheon for lips. Lovely,
intelligent,
powerful,
and sensual.
We are here to celebrate you.
Well, there you have it. Once again, we are celebrating you because not only are you a woman in history, but you're doing things that's going to go down into history. Does that make sense, Michelle?
It makes sense.
Did that make sense? Did I say that right? Historical?
You said it right.
All right,
cool,
cool, cool. And it doesn't matter if you're still here because you did something yesterday. You did something the day before yesterday. You did something last week. But the key is, what are you going to do tomorrow?
Exactly.
Take no thought for it. Just get on board and let's go for it. Let's keep moving, So we're going to come back, Michelle, because I want to talk about that Women Standing United. And as I was stating earlier, is that every woman need midwives around her. You need me, I need you. And I can serve as your midwife, as you serve as mine, because you have a cause.
Yes.
And that cause definitely consists of our real awesome men. It's not just us. We're fighting for our sons. We're fighting for our husbands. We're fighting for our pastors. We're just fighting, period, because they're around us. So those two midwives we're talking about from Exodus.
Yes, ma'am.
And there was a nation. There was a new king that was in position, and he was intimidated by how the men was rapidly producing and multiplying and multiplying. And that was an insecure king because he didn't really know who he was, But we're talking about women right now.
Correct.
So there was instructions given because the midwives was helping the women give birth, and every time a male was born, they were given instructions to kill the male seed and let the women live.
Right.
Now that's a whole other dynamic to it. But these two women, Shiphrah and Puah, and you know more about that, maybe than I do from a historical point of view, they were given instructions to do that, and they did not do it.
They did not. They stood together.
They stood together.
They stood together for a cause.
They were standing at war for the cause.
Yes, war against
for the cause.
The enemy.
Yes.
To save men.
Correct.
Powerful men.
Correct.
Who they know that they needed and their futures relied on.
And you can't stand up against the enemy alone. Not a woman.
No.
Now, a man can stand, but a woman cannot.
And these women were so powerful that the Pharaoh at the time, now there were hundreds of thousands of Hebrews, and these two women were appointed. So they stood out.
They stood out.
So if there were thousands of people, there were probably hundreds of midwives. But these two stood out. Probably for their skill, their dedication, their character. So he thought that they would work for him and work well. But they actually knew God, loved God, reverenced God. Whether they knew one another, it doesn't state. But they had a cause. And that was to save as many men as the Pharaoh wanted to kill. They wanted to save them.
That's right.
Because they knew without the men, their nation would be nothing.
But I think, this is just my reasoning for it. I believe that they were chosen because of their lips. They were lovely. They were intelligent. They were powerful, and they were sensual. Okay. and they knew how to use their lips as opposed to just kissing on everything, smooching, you know, trying to get their own way. You know what I'm saying? And that's the face of women, you know, that we want to just kiss on stuff that really doesn't belong to us. You know, we want to go off and we want to, you know, try to get things through manipulation. But these women stood in their authenticity.
They did.
And they was used to save a nation.
They helped save a nation, and God recognized that.
Yes.
And then they actually received blessings from that. But one thing about these two women is that they were so powerful, they stood up to the king. And they told him, no, we didn't obey. And the king didn't execute them. He let them live.
Yes.
And they continued to be blessed.
Because
and
they
continued
stood.
to do their midwifery
But that was a
positions.
risk. That was a risk. Well, let's look at briefly before we go. Just a few women, you know, even outside from the Word of God, I believe those women are just as relevant as Jane Adam Holhouse, Mother Teresa, Eleanor Roosevelt, Harriet Tubman.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, even the Asian woman that you were speaking of, you're more of a historian than I am, but those are women that their names still live today, although they are physically gone.
Yes, they are.
My question is, what is your name going to stand out to be when you're gone? Are you doing something in this earth that's going to make a difference, that's going to go against the grain of what you've been taught, what you've been led to do, and stand up for truth? Because that's what those two midwives did. Shiphrah and Puah, they stood up for truth in spite of the instructions that they were given by the slave master, by Pharaoh, by the king, by the head honcho, however you want to call it. You know, you have to take a risk.
You do.
For your name to go down in history. You got to do something that no one else is doing. You know, you have to sacrifice for your name to go down in history. And that's what Dunamis Woman is about. I want my name to go down in history, not because I'm just so rich and so famous and so this and that. I have made a difference.
You have, and changed the lives.
And changed the lives of God's people and made that particular difference. So we're going to come back. You're going to have to come back next week, Michelle, because we want to talk more and more and more, because I believe history is not talked about enough, because we're steady trying to press towards the future, and we don't know where we came from, and that's the biggest barrier. I am Pastor D. Give us a call at 1-855-B-Dunamis. The number's right there on the screen. Visit our website and get your ticket again. Lips. You are lovely, intelligent, powerful, and sensual. God bless you. Talk to you next week.
Dunamis woman, releasing all miracles for the kingdom within me, breaking through barriers. Success is what I see, understanding my destiny and the power